Grimlock. This is a video about Grimlock. Get in that car.
Hey, where we going?
Hello, and what? Wait, no, not more music. It's enough music. Turn off the music.
And stop spinning.
Dude, turn off the music. Just start talking. Ford Mustang GT Grimlock. Transformers, alternators, robots into squeeze. 1/24th scale. Look at it. Around the back of the box, there are different pictures. It also says it is a 3. That's not age 3 and up. I think that's level 3. If you remove the engine, it will become a weapon, but I don't think that's unique to this car. I think that's generally the case. And the drivetrain will become a sword, but again, I think that's a standard Ford Mustang feature. So shiny. Round the other side is a nice picture of Grimlock and a reminder that this vehicle will become a robot and vice versa. And just try not to be inside the car when this happens. The Mustang is packed tightly in the box under clear plastic, well displayed for the conscious consumer. Ages 5 and up, of course. And I'd like to see a 5-year-old transform this thing. For a pretty neat effect, there's a nice reflection of the Mustang on the inside of the box there. I mean, I assume that was deliberate and not just something that just got burnt in over time on a sun-baked shelf inside a store window display. Scooch. Okay, so now let's get this bad boy out of the box. But that's not super exciting to watch, so we're going to speed it up. For those playing along at home, we are now at 1200% speed for this speed up. Bye-bye box and value. No real point to showing the car off in the box anymore. We're just edging at this point, so let's just get it out of the box. There was a whole lot of tape on the bottom, and it had clearly deteriorated over time, so I just kind of had to pull it off as best I could. It was basically part of the box at this point. And here we have the instructions for converting Grimlock into his robot mode. They're about as helpful as you can imagine they would be. But there's nothing new there as regards to, Transformers instructions. But there they are, so lock them in as best you can because we are going to transform the shit out of this thing. If I'm being honest, knowing what I know, looking at these instructions just kind of upsets me at this point. Hold up, my royalty-free YouTube music has stopped. Let me start that up again real quick. I mean, it is literally called rinse and repeat. Silver car. And here's our first look at this Ford Mustang GT Alternators Grimlock. Get that focus sorted out. There we go. More tape, for fuck's sake. Let's speed it up and look at this car. So let's talk about this car. This, of course, this mode is where this guy really shines, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. The whole point, again, of the Alternators series were having these actual scale model, just one-to-one designs with the vehicles, and in most cases, they just, from what I've seen, they really nailed it, and they certainly did it here with this Mustang. If this were just sitting on a shelf, there's no reason for anyone to suspect this was anything other than just, a die-cast model car. And the fact that it does transform, and as we'll see pretty soon, into what is actually a pretty decent robot mode is just incredibly impressive for what it is. But the car itself, like I said, is just absolutely amazing. I've never been a huge fan of silver on cars, but I get it. A lot of folks like it. And for this Mustang GT, it kind of makes sense. And with the silver, at least you get, and if we can get the focus to come in a bit, you can get the red seats in there to really kind of pop when they're in there. And so that just looks really cool. I like that quite a bit. But yeah, I would have also loved if this would have been in a different color variation, something a little louder perhaps. But this makes sense, and it just looks really cool. The wheels, the front tires actually turn together, which is kind of crazy, and that happens when you put the arms together here. That allows that to happen. So that's really cool. Although it does, at least with mine, it does mean when I roll it, it tends to want to turn automatically, and it's kind of hard to get it to roll straight. But otherwise, it does roll very well. It has, of course, really good clearance. So, you know, it'll roll just fine. Apart from that, and that could just be me or how I have him kind of transformed into the bot mode that's causing sort of an issue there. You can also see here, weapon storage. He's got his sword right here. So that just comes out first in the transformation, and that's just a handy place to keep that and not lose it. And as you can also see, the underneath is just about as impressive as the rest of the vehicle. Like there's nothing other than you can see the fist here and the arms a bit. Everything else is well hidden, and these just look incredible in this mode. The hood can shift on you a bit, but I found that, you know, with a little TLC, I can keep it pretty snug. And when it does pop out a bit, it's because something else is kind of slightly in the wrong place, and that's something you'd have to deal with a little bit, but it's, you know, it's a decent enough trade-off. It's not that big a deal. It's just really gorgeous. The red brake lights back here, the license plate. You got you can see here you have the GT logo there, and then you have the Autobot symbol and the personalized plate down here with Grimlock. So that's a really cool feature. You've even got, you know, your fuel there, the fuel cap, fuel cover. In the front, you've got the Mustang logo. The headlights just look great. You've got the glass right here, which is really nice, and it catches the light right when it's in the light. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's just the car mode is gorgeous. And it's such a cool thing just to have on the shelf like this if it did nothing else. This is just really, really a nice piece. But of course it does transform, and notoriously Grimlock here is problematic in the transformation. It's not necessarily that it's too difficult per se. It's kind of a typical sort of the era type of car transformation, even going back, I think, to almost like G1, where the legs flop down from the bottom and the hood comes down over the head. So there's nothing particularly complex about it. The issue, of course, is possibly braking. It feels the trade-off of having everything look so perfect in car mode and still being able to turn into a robot, I think results in some what feel like fairly weak connection points and hinges that make you nervous when you're transforming it. But if you take your time and do it properly and don't push anything, if something isn't giving, you kind of just need to make sure you're doing the right thing first and don't just push too hard on anything. You should be fine. And of course the doors will pop off, the head will pop off, certain things like that, but you kind of want that. You want that give as opposed to something actually breaking. So it's no problem if a piece pops off here or there. This bottom piece here can pop off, but you snap them right back on. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. So the transformation is pretty clean, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the robot mode. So we'll do the transformation now, and then we'll check out the robot mode. But before we get right into that, and of course, as part of the transformation process, and one of the great things about this is the doors, of course, do open. The trunk opens. And the hood opens. And when you open the hood, you can also see the engine in there, which you've already seen this in the sort of the opening shots of this video, but sort of a better look here. You can see how the gun sits in there and looks like the engine, and just that effect works really well. We come around here, of course, inside, and I'll try to get a better shot of that. You've got the steering wheel. You have the shift stick, like everything in there. You can see the dash. It's just everything but maybe the pedals. It's really impressive. Look at the detail on the door here. Same thing on the other side. It's just the interior is what sets this apart from other Transformers vehicles. Like, we have great vehicles. Let me grab some. Reactivate Prime here, you know, all the various Primes transform into really cool looking trucks, but you always have the issue of inside the windows, you know, there's just kibble. There's no real way to resolve that issue without making the kind of trade-offs the Alternators make. The Alternators focused on, we're going to make really cool looking cars. And so that's the difference. You get those. Now, of course, they would do that again in Revenge of the Fallen with these with this Human Alliance line. And this is going to be for another video later, but I just felt the need to point that out. By the way, someone has ripped off Megan Fox's head there. Her head should be there, but anyway. That was part of the gimmick of the Human Alliance that came out for Revenge of the Fallen, was you would get characters in the cars, they could sit inside the cars and actually ride inside the cars. So we'll do a different video for this, but the alternators were obviously not the last time they did this sort of thing. But yeah, it's just posing it as a car is just fun. This could be sitting at a car show, right? Lined up with the doors open, and you know, so people could walk by and check everything out. It's just, this thing photographs well, it poses well as a vehicle, it just looks really cool. I had some shots and side-by-sides of it with alternators, Convoy or Optimus Prime here. Don't know what this is because this is totally just a normal alternators and not a, you know, okay, fine, this was a KISS Players, but we've already taken care of that in a different video. But anyway, we rescued this Optimus Prime, this Convoy, from the KISS Players packaging, and it's just another great vehicle, and they're just cool side by side. I mean, check them out. Now, his hood is a little more problematic. I think, you know, as much as people complain about Grimlock, I have more complaints about Convoy here. I can't quite get his hood to open up well enough, and the weapon should be in there to be the engine, but after the original time it was in there, I can never get that to go back in there just right. It has some other issues, but see, it's already fallen out. We'll put that in the back there, but side by side, the scale is fantastic. They look cool, and we will compare the robot modes as well, which means I'm gonna have to turn this guy back into a robot again, and that'll be fun. But you know, we do it for you guys, right? But anyway, so that's just how cool the car can look. So that's just really cool.
Transformation time.
So the first thing we're going to do in the transformation process is we're going to take his sword off and throw that in the floor. That's the instructions said to do that, so we're doing that. And then we can take this bottom part down. This is a part you'll find might flop off on you a lot, but it goes right back on, so that's okay. So we'll pop that down, and then the back part here, you just kind of want to pull it out like that and up like that, and you're done with that part so far. So off to a good, fairly easy start. So now with that complete, we've split him right here, and with this out of the way, we're going to open up these panels underneath, and you know, nothing unusual about this bit. Now we can, this is trickier to do reaching around, you know, the camera to do this, but with that done, we can take the legs and just twist them around. They pop into place kind of nicely. And then you're going to want to flatten out the seats for his feet. And then you can split them apart. And for the most part, once you have the feet moved forward, flattened, that's kind of his legs done already. So we're off to a great start. And the next bit, and the first sort of tricky bit, is this panel needs to twist around to the back. And if you pull it from here, it's going to come off. And again, it's not the worst if it does, but if you can just kind of grip by the orange part here, you can bring that around. But of course, again, this is the only thing that's twisting around. So you kind of hold, if you can kind of grip on the crotch and get it spinning, you can twist it around. But it does take some force. And that's where you lose a leg, you lose the panel. And in fact, but that's the beauty of this thing. Just twist it around, get it done. Now it's in place. Look at this. The leg pops right back on, we're fine. You can kind of even this up, get the crotch straight. And this piece, quite frankly, we can just keep out of the way until the end. Now, I plan to make a short doing this completely clean, and that'll probably drive me nuts, and you might never see it because I won't make the short unless we can do a proper clean transformation. And I'd like to think that if a few more times pivoting this around, it'll get easier to do. But again, what's the big deal? If it pops off, that's fine. You put it right back on. not the end of the world. So the next thing we're going to want to do is start working on the arms. You can kind of move the doors out of the way. Again, that's something else that may pop off, and that's okay. We can open the hood, start to open the hood, and come under here, and then for the camera, I'm just going to bring it down a bit. You just got to get the arms worked out and down, and both of them popped off. So that's okay. You bring the assembly out. The arms will come sort of out like this. A little bit of pivoting involved. Turn these on their hinge. I'm keeping all this in. And these are ultimately going to form his shoulders, right? So we can, right here, this hinge here, we can hinge it up and down like that. Well, up like that. Same thing over here. And then we can pop his hands back on. And, you know, once they've come off, pop them right back on. You're fine. Pop them right back on. Not the end of the world. Straighten his legs out again. The legs are really solid, so that's good at least. The doors, and you know, I'm almost like, if stuff pops off, you might just want to wait till the very end to put it back on, because it's kind of nice to have it out of the way. So now the next tricky part is the hood here. The head is hiding underneath. We can get the engine out, which is going to be the weapon. The hood has to come forward, and you have to get this piece. You get it angled in such a way that you can get this piece and hide it down, tuck it down below everything else. And this is another one of those delicate areas where you've just really got to get this assembly away like that first. If you don't do that, you're going to be trying to push this through, and you're going to end up breaking something. So this comes away, and then you can take this part, tuck it completely back underneath there. And then the next fun part is his head has got to sneak up here. The assembly comes down, and you have to figure out, you have to get his head to come up through this part here. It's got to slide up. So it's a bit of a trick. And the best way to make that happen is to get the windshield back down here all the way flat. But to do that, you need this bit to stay out of the way. There, and then bring this down flat again, and then you should be able to get his head up through here, bring it down, and you're good to go there. So now we have the heads. Whoops. Now we have the head in place there. Straighten up his legs, and then there are, when you have the arm set up right, this needs to come down like this and kind of come behind a bit. Flattens out a bit. And then there are tabs. We should put the door back on first. Let's get the door on. There we go. Everything's sitting down. And it needs to nest pretty low down here. Put these bits up. So these tabs here, in theory, tab into the top part of the car. So pull the doors out of the way. Get this down as low as it goes, then you can bring the hood down and set it on those tabs as best you can, but honestly it doesn't really need to tab into place. See how desperately his arms want to stay off. But again, that for the most part is done. We'll go back here, we'll put this panel back on the back, snap that in. That can hide back there. And there we have his robot mode. Which is, I'm sure this isn't 100% perfect, but this is pretty darn awesome to me. I think it looks really cool. Let me try and reset the camera a bit so we can see the whole thing here. And I'll get some better shots close up without the background, you know. We'll do what we can to make him look as cool as possible, and you can get as good a look at him as possible. So anyway, here's the engine that will turn into his gun. So we need to get this bit out of here. There we go. And that's his weapon. And just like with Convoy, it was a little tricky getting it in, but the hands do open. You can see here, the hands will open. You've got some Kung Fu grip there, so you can kind of put, there's a little tab on the gun that in theory will meet a spot in here. So you can get the gun in the hand and then kind of close it on it. And if you do it right, he should grip the gun fairly well. And so there we have it. Here's our robot form of Alternators Grimlock. And I think he looks pretty cool. Let's get a better angle. Okay, we switched up our angle a little bit so we can get a good look at him. You can see here, let's turn him around. You got the tires on the arms that kind of sit there nicely and look cool. There's a lot of decent detail here. I mean, he's clearly a Mustang GT, and he's wearing that right on the chest there, but that has a very old school G1, G2 Transformers look to it, which I actually really like. The doors sitting on the side look really cool. His legs are beefy. You can see the glass here, and there's even some decent detail on the legs behind the glass, which is cool. His license plate and symbol. Unfortunately, Autobot symbol wound up upside down there, but what are you going to do? It's not the end of the world. We turn him around. Some decent kibble in the back, but I mean, it's fairly solid. But yeah, it's this bit, which by the, you know, obviously you could just leave off if you wanted, but otherwise it'll hang back there and gives him almost kind of like a weird cape or something. But again, pop it off and leave it off in this mode if you want, and that'll clean it up a bit. And the other trade-off is there's obviously not a lot of posability to this guy, and you don't even, at least I don't even really want to try to do too much posing with him. I think, you know, the legs are kind of locked in. They might bend a little bit, but if they did, I wouldn't want to try anyway. The arms are a little loose, but you can, you know, twist the shoulders a bit, and you can move the arms around. I mean, that, like I said, there's some posability, but a piece like this, you're going to kind of lock into display one way or the other, and a lot of folks are probably just going to want to keep it in the alt mode because that is really where it shines. But at the same time, like I say, I love this as well. I love this robot mode. I think you would initially think, well, if the car is going to be really great, that the trade-offs are going to be so much that the robot mode isn't great. But at least when it comes to Grimlock here, absolutely love it. I think he looks really cool. And we can do a few size comparisons, I guess. I have a knockoff Shockwave here. Put him there. You can see his cable isn't connected, but he's fun, and he was nearby, so I grabbed him. Here's Kit. Here's the Knight Rider next to him. They actually make a pretty decent pair, I have to say. The Kit collaboration. I did a short on his transformation. I like him a lot. Here he is next to Mech Tech. Here he is next to Mech Tech Leader Class Bumblebee, which we know is a pretty large figure, but he still looks pretty decent next to him. Here is Studio Series Blackout. So as you can tell, these are fairly large figures, and he's a pretty good size. Here we have a deluxe Bumblebee here. What's the matter? He's drunk again. As you can see. And of course, plenty of bots behind him back there. Can give you a general idea of the size. And as much as I didn't even really want to do it, here he is next to Alternators, Optimus Prime, or Convoy, as he was known in Japan, because he is in fact a KISS player as well. There they are side by side. And I don't know, I've already done the video on Convoy, so we don't need to talk about him again, but he does look kind of cool too, and they look cool together, and they scale pretty well. I mean, you know, obviously Grimlock, in theory, should be considerably bigger than Prime if he were in fact a T-Rex, but in this case he's not. He's a Mustang, so it is what it is, but here they are together. We can spin them around. As you can see, Prime is mostly transformed. As I spin, they want to shift. Grimlock wants to do splits. So yeah, I'm not making news here in the fact that Grimlock is really cool looking. He's a great bot. He's also a lot of trouble as far as transforming back and forth. It makes you nervous. Things are, you know, a little wobbly here and there, and parts tend to fall off. But again, they fall off so they can go back on, and so they don't break. So that's not the worst. And they just look cool. I really like this guy a lot. So I wanted to share him with you guys, make sort of an updated video. We haven't seen a lot on alternators in a while, I think. So I just wanted to, since I picked him up, share them with you guys and try to make a couple videos about him. We will try to do a transformation short. Look for that eventually, or never if I can't make it clean enough, which is a very real possibility as well, because he is not easy, at least not without parts falling off. So anyway, that's it. That's Grimlock, the Alternator. Awesome.